when you are renting an apartment, often in Munich, for example, it's very common for the apartment not like to come with a kitchen. And it's insane. Like, you have to then therefore buy a very particular kitchen that will fit this rental, even if you were only like going to stay for 1 or 2 years. I just think it's like wild. Like, the American inside of me, even after 9 years of living in Germany, cannot understand that, y'all. Like, and the Germans' defense is like, oh, but you can customize it, blah, blah, blah. But like, y'all, come on. Howdy und servus, y'all. My name is Paulina de los Santos, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast, The Pod Abroad. Today, we are talking all about the 10 surprising differences between homes and neighborhoods between the US and Germany. Just for some context, I am an American who has lived in Munich, Germany the last 9 years. So there are my qualifications. I am born and raised in Texas, in South Texas. Then I went to Texas A&M University, ended up going to Munich for a master's program, and then stayed here. So my podcast is all about sharing those cultural differences, sharing immigrant perspectives and stories with my friends here in Munich, and yeah, really getting into that. So about where I'm from, born and raised in Texas, like I said. I am from the region in South Texas. My family now lives in San Antonio. My two brothers, my dad, my grandpa. My mom previously lived in Austin for, I think, 8 years. So that's also where I'd go back to. And just as a disclaimer, today will be speaking from that experience. I cannot speak and represent, of course, all of the United States. Texas has a very different climate being in the South versus New York, where they have radiators. And I'm not talking about New York City or Chicago. But just like my generalized experience growing up in my home state. So there is that disclaimer and the fact that I have only ever lived in Munich, Germany. Nevertheless, I think it's really fun to compare the two. And yeah, who is this episode for? I think anyone who is interested in cultural differences and just finds it interesting and wants to hear from someone who has lived in both of these places for an extensive amount of time. I think if you are curious about life in Germany or have an upcoming move soon and kind of just want to know what a German home and neighborhood is like, then I think that could also be interesting for you as well. So let's get into it. Number one is going to be all about kitchens and appliances. So growing up in Texas, it was very, very common for us to have huge fridges and deep freezers. I now call it a huge fridge, although growing up in Texas, it was just a fridge for me. Now, after many years in Germany, I call it a huge fridge because that is not common in German cities, I suppose, especially not in Munich because of lack of space. We don't have much space here. The fridges are then inherently much smaller. And yeah, several times living in a shared flat here in Munich, I had a mini fridge with like the mini fridges that have like the built-in freezer door within it. That was kind of hard. That was a challenge with the freezer stuff. But I think that also stems from the fact that like people go shopping more frequently here in Munich versus Texas. So we don't have a lot of space for our produce and our things in the fridge in the big cities. Nevertheless, we still make it work. A funny story is that when I moved in with my boyfriend, we also had a mini fridge in our flat here in Munich, and we had it, I think, for about a year. And one day we had a big gathering, and I had many friends over. I think there was like over 20 people here. And every time we had gatherings, we had to empty our entire fridge because we don't have a balcony to like it was in the winter. We don't have a balcony to chill our beers. So we like had a cooler and we put all of our stuff in the mini fridge into the cooler so that we could make space to chill our drinks for our guests. So we put all the beers in there. And at one point of the night, my boyfriend opened up the little mini fridge and like a beer rolled out, ding, ding, choo. And when it, hit the ground, it shattered. There was beer and glass everywhere. And in that moment, he looked at me and I kind of smirked and smiled because I was the American wanting a big fridge like the entire time. He looked at me and he was like, we're getting the fridge. We're getting the bigger fridge. And then we did. Still the bigger fridge is not close to the size of an average American fridge. So there's that. We also have a lot of deep freezers in Texas. That's also very normal. That probably just comes from our culture of eating a lot of frozen foods as well. But growing up in a Tex-Mex household, my abuela would always make a lot of rice and Mexican beans and tamales in the winter. And we would also save homemade meals in our deep freezer. And that came in handy for sure. So I miss a good deep freezer. I do. We also have ice and filtered water built in to a lot of our fridges. It's pretty common to find that in Texas. I love ice. Every time I go back to my state, like I was just there in June this year, it's a nice thing to have, especially like during the heat in Texas. Of course, like one can make ice cubes from trays here, or buy a bag from the store, but it's just not the same, to like versus having ice on demand. Like that's an American part of me that like that's here to stay. Ice is really nice. And I kind of miss that as well. And about like filtered water, I guess where I come from in Texas, our water is for sure drinkable. It's just like it's groundwater and it's very high in minerals. So the taste isn't amazing unless it's really cold. So many people have filters for that reason. Here in Munich, what's very typical for me is just to drink straight out of the tap. We don't buy bottled water here. We don't need a fancy filter. Some people do. I know here, like some of my friends in Munich, like do use a Brita filter. I don't, and the water tastes really, really good because it comes from the Alps, not far. Another big difference between my life growing up in Texas and here in Munich is the whole concept of a kitchen. So in Texas, when you buy a home or rent an apartment, y'all, kitchens come with homes, kitchens come with apartments, and that is not the same in Germany. For any Americans watching this, you're gonna be like, what? Like, what do you mean? And I'll explain it to you. When you are renting an apartment, often in Munich, for example, it's very common for the apartment not like to come with a kitchen. And it's insane. Like, you have to then therefore buy a very particular kitchen that will fit this rental. Even if you were only like going to stay for 1 or 2 years, you have to buy the kitchen, which is unfortunate, and timely. It takes like 2 months sometimes for it to come in from IKEA. It can cost several thousands of dollars. Like, my boyfriend Tim, his sister had to buy a kitchen as well, and I think easily like even for a studio it can cost like over €1,000 for like a very simple one. So when you're talking about like a proper apartment that's several bedrooms that might have a few people in it, like it could easily be like 3 grand, 5 grand, just for that kitchen. I just think it's like wild. Like the American inside of me, even after 9 years of living in Germany, cannot understand that, y'all. Like, and the Germans' defense is like, oh, but you can customize it, blah, blah, blah. But like, y'all, come on. Who wants to buy a kitchen? Very specifically, like, especially for renting. I understand if you're a homeowner, different story. But come on, as a renter, I think that's wild. Like, Germany's wild for that, for sure. I also know like when apartments go for rent here in Munich, sometimes it is under the condition that you must buy the kitchen from the last tenant there, which is also crazy because maybe they got an ugly ass kitchen and now you have to inherit it. And oftentimes, like the Germans are like, I bought this for €5,000 10 years ago, and I'm gonna sell it to you for €4,500, which is crazy business. It's crazy business, and you know what? It sells, like, because people are desperate to get an apartment in Munich, for example, understandably so, because there's a housing crisis. It's very hard to find an apartment in this city. Therefore, people go through these lengths just to get the flat and have to purchase. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, have to purchase this kitchen. And gosh, y'all, I've had friends who, like, yeah, when you're changing apartments in Munich or moving in for the first time in the city, y'all, you have to pay, of course, like the deposit, which can often be 3 months rent. And then you pay the month of rent that you move in. And then you're paying the adopted kitchen now that you own. Sometimes they even like make you buy furniture that you don't want. And people get away with it. Who are like having those deals and trying to get that money. Because you're in power, I guess, when you're owning the apartment, or I guess if you're like in good like terms with your landlord in that sense. So I just think that's something, yeah, crazy about um kitchens between the US and Germany. Next up, I want to talk all about laundry and drying. Something very specific, right? But in Texas, we typically have dryers in every home and apartment. It's very common. Or even dedicated like laundry rooms. I think we just have space, y'all. Texas is double the size of Germany. I mean, not exactly, it's like just under double the size geographically of Germany. And we have, I think, around 30 million people, whereas Germany is about half the size with over 80 million people. Yeah, we have the luxury of space. We have dryers. Y'all, every time I go home, and they're huge. Like, what's so typical in Texas is, I mean, it's true. The saying, everything's bigger in Texas, can confirm, especially like with perspective after not living in the state and then like returning back. Washer and dryer is like, they're massive. If we're talking about kilos, probably like at least 15 kilos of capacity. Just huge and great. I love it. Honestly, like that's something that I miss is like having a good dryer. I, yeah, I have so many things to say about drying here in Munich. What's typical in the city that I live in Germany is to dry your clothes on a rack. Very normal. And that is simply also because of space. Like there's not enough space typically. It's not in the culture. Germans also say that like dryers ruin your clothes. Like the quality stays better when you like dry it on the rack and so forth. They have all their justifications. Nevertheless, like it gets hard sometimes. Like it has been raining in Munich the whole month of July. Like it was raining like I think like 2/3 of the month. And it gets hard, y'all. Like sometimes it takes my jeans 2 to 3 days to dry, especially in the winter, which is frustrating, especially if you're going to go on a trip or go anywhere. Like you got to plan that 2 to 3 business days in advance. Whereas in Texas with our dryers, y'all, it's just so easy. Don't have to think about it. I know people in the comments might be like, Paulina, just get a dryer. It's not that deep. But it's just like not in the culture. Maybe I just like ask yourself, like, Paulina, like, should you? I should ask myself, like, should you? And like, maybe not. But I can still long for the life in Texas. um, yeah. Also, another comment I wanted to say is that, like, in the state of Texas, we have homeowner associations, HOAs. What are those? I don't know if they have those in Germany. Like, I'm trying to find the German equivalent. But essentially, like, when you have a neighborhood, sometimes like a fancy schmancy neighborhood, like, have these associations with people who police you on certain things that you should and cannot do in your neighborhood, like flag wise or sign wise, or that your grass shouldn't be so tall, and like X, Y, and Z, and all these things. And some homeowner associations also don't allow drying on lines outside, which is crazy. Especially like when you own your home and like it's your backyard, like the fact that like somebody could still be telling you like, that's not allowed. Why is that? Because drying your clothes on a line or outside is looked upon as like lower class, and like not appropriate, which is just crazy to me. I have another story that like, yeah, once when I was a teenager, our dryer broke in the home that I grew up in South Texas, and we had lines in the backyard because we didn't grow up in a neighborhood with a homeowners association. It was just a little town in South Texas, Westlaco, shout out. And we had to hang our clothes on a line for, yeah, several weeks. And mind you, like we have a climate that's amazing for drying clothes outside. Like they dry for sure within the day. The sun is extra strong there in South Texas. And I remember complaining to my mom and like saying like, when is our dryer gonna get fixed? Like, oh, I don't want to hang clothes, because at the time I just associated like hanging clothes with being poor. And I was like, and I don't want to like feel this way, blah blah blah. Like, first off, I did grow up poor and like lower class, and I guess was self-conscious about that. Nevertheless, like I love how like now I can like openly say that and just be like, you know what, like own it, girl. Like that was your life. Yeah, like I didn't want to yeah, really feel that or like let that be my reality. So I was just like complaining, which is so crazy because I remember during the pandemic I called my mom and I was like, I'm sorry. Like I'm so sorry that like I was so mean to you about like drying my clothes. Like because this has been the reality. Like the last 9 years of living in Germany, I have dried my clothes on a line or on a rack, and it's normal here. It has nothing to do with status. So there's that difference. I want to now talk about climate control in general, and differences between the US and Germany. So typically, I'm especially in the South where I'm from, central AC is a must. When I say central AC, like for Germans who don't know or have never been to the US, we have AC like built into our homes or apartments that are through little like I want to say tubes. That's not the right word, but like they're built into the ceilings, and you have a little thermostat where you set what you want the AC to be at. Some people also like have individual like AC units that they put into their window that would only be shooting into that particular room. Or like mini split, which is like also, yeah, individual kind of AC unit. But central AC, like that is centrally operated by that thermostat, is very, very common. And in Germany, like Germans just can't relate, y'all. We do not have AC here. What do I have to say about that? I think that it's getting hotter and hotter in Germany, and that eventually, like, it will come. There will be a day that like we will need AC, but in the meantime, I mean, like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Yeah, like there's a few uncomfortable weeks within the year, but that's just it. It's a few weeks. And we survive. We crack the windows open, you have your fans. Um, but yeah, there are some days that I'm like, oh, I wish I could just like crank up the AC. But it's okay. It works. And I now have become one of those Germans that whenever I go back to Texas and the AC is so cold, I'm like, why is it so cold? I was just there in June and it was about, I don't know, like 32 degrees Celsius. And so pretty warm in Texas and in the early 90s. And I would go into different restaurants with my family and like I just get like shivers down my spine. I was freezing and they're like, "Girl, it's nice. It's not like I'm like, you guys aren't cold like how I'm cold." And they're like, "No, no, no, like it's nice." And I just thought the AC was wild, like and blasting and ice cold. So like that I kind of get when Germans criticize Americans and are like, "Oh my gosh, but why is it so cold?" Like I can relate with the Germans now on that. We have that kind of solidarity. Um, I'm not like an AC hater completely. Sometimes, y'all, I am like a German and I'm like, okay, AC is making me sick. Like I got sick from AC. And I used to like not think that was true until I go back to Texas and like I'm kind of congested in the morning, things like that. So life without AC can also, I don't know, because can it have health benefits? I'm sure the Germans would claim that it does. Um, yeah, so they have ventilation in a different way. Um, Germans have the concept of lüften, and what that means is like opening the windows multiple times a day, every single day for like 10 to 15 minutes so that you get fresh air within the home. And that kind of ventilation here is deep within the culture. When you move into an apartment and like you're a foreigner, like even the landlord will be like, okay, make sure to luften, like that's essential here. And it is, because we don't have AC and like you don't want to have mold or like moisture buildup in the winter either. So that's very critical here. Another difference is that in Texas, we have big ceiling fans. I miss those. I really do. One of my German friends once here was just like, but isn't that dangerous? Like that kind of sounds scary. And I'm like, oh, I never thought so. I mean, growing up to me was just so normal for us to have ceiling fans. Y'all, we have central AC, ceiling fans, and standing fans in Texas because we just like want to make sure that we're not gonna overheat. I know the Germans are also like thinking like, y'all, wow, that's so energy intensive. Like, that's not sustainable, which like you're not wrong. I guess I don't have anything else to say about that. Like, yes, it is very, very energy intensive, but it's also hot as hell. So just a very different lifestyle. Last comment is like on windows. Growing up with central AC, like my mom would always yell, like if I was playing in the backyard and like me and my brothers would leave the doors open, my mom would yell at us like, we're not paying to like air condition the whole neighborhood, like close the door. Therefore like our doors were always closed, like we'd always have the windows closed as well, because you don't want all your precious AC that you pay for to just slip through the cracks. So lüften, like the act of airing out the home, isn't as common. I don't know, like maybe my Texas friends should let me know, like, are y'all opening your windows daily? I highly doubt that. Also in Texas, we have very different windows in general that like you push up and down and only half of the windows exposed. And we have screens because we have vicious mosquitoes where I'm from. And like in Munich, we don't. Like the mosquitoes aren't that bad. We have evil wasps, that's for sure. But yeah, our windows don't have screens. We can either like crack them open or open them like straight up like a door. Um, and there's that. Yeah, so just a little bit of differences there. Next up, I want to talk all about storage and closets. And I also have some spicy opinions on this. In Texas, which I think, honestly, even after 9 years of living in Germany, I think is a superior way. In Texas, we have built-in closets. Normally in every bedroom where someone would be sleeping, plus extra storage closets in general. And y'all, that doesn't exist in Germany. Okay, like have I been into every single German home? No, but like built-ins are not common. Um, and to me, honestly, that's like unfortunate. In Munich, for example, where I've lived for several years, we have standalone wardrobes and they're expensive. You can get them secondhand as well, but like gosh, like like when you're looking at an apartment and you see a bedroom, it's literally just four walls with no ceiling fan, no built-in closet. But y'all, like everyone needs a closet. Everybody has clothes. The Germans' argument for this is saying like, yeah, but like you can customize your wardrobe like exactly to how you want. Yeah, but you can also customize a closet, y'all. Um, Closets are just nice because when you look at the room in Texas, like that you'd be renting or a home that you're buying, you see the space for what it is, like its true value, versus like in Munich, when you're looking at an apartment, you're like, okay, but like an eighth of this room is going to be taken up by like a huge ass wardrobe that we need to spend €1,000 on. Um, and that's unfortunate. I will die on this hill that built-in closets are superior. Even if they're like little ones. I grew up with like a very small built-in closet. It wasn't like a fancy walk-in one, but like nevertheless, it served its purpose. And I just think that, yeah, that it makes sense in Texas and that Germany should get built-in closets. Um, we have attics in Texas. I can't speak for the whole US, like, but I know in Texas we don't have basements. I know like my aunt in Massachusetts, like they had basements there in the Northeast, so very different. But attics are more common, like for storage. And then in Germany, a lot of people use their cellar basement to store stuff. That's super common. Yeah. Moving on to bathroom and bedroom in general. one these are like all kind of like just things from my mind that I was just like, what bothers me the most, or like what's really different between the two places, and therefore a little random. But comforters. So in Texas, for like our beds that we sleep on, we have, what's very, very common is to have a comforter. What is that? It's kind of like a duvet with a design on it, and there's no separate like duvet cover. So in Munich, like we have our duvet, then you have like that has the fluff in it, cotton or feathers, whatever, down, and then you have the duvet cover. And you wash the duvet cover often versus having comforters in Texas that like sometimes are massive and like don't even fit into people's already big washers. People aren't washing them as often then, or at least that's like my theory. Let me know in the comments if you're from Texas and you wash your duvet weekly. Highly doubt it, but let me know. I totally prefer the German way in this battle of having your duvet and your duvet cover. I just think that makes perfect sense. Another tiny little thing that I noticed is that, yeah, I mean, in general, our toilets in Texas, the US, are bigger than here in Germany. One funny thing, just from my personal experience, I live in an old building right now. We have a toilet that, well, first off, it's green, so that's funny. But and not, it has not turned green, y'all. It has always been green. Anyway, our toilet has a poop shelf. I don't know the proper term for this design of toilet, y'all. And I will not say that this toilet is like common in Germany. Nevertheless, I've seen it in more than one place. Like I've seen it at other places other than my home. And what do I mean by a poop shelf? There is no like there's no proper bowl of the toilet, like with standing water. So when you need to go number two, it's literally staring at you like in the face until you flush it. There is no plop into water. It's like there's like a little shelf that it sits on. What's with that? I don't know. It's an older design. Like I said, it's not super common in Germany, and I have plenty of friends here in Munich who live in new buildings who have normal toilets. But there's that. Old German toilets have these poop shelves, y'all. I don't know what else to say. Next up, I want to talk about neighborhood layouts in general. In Texas, what's very common is to have these huge sprawling neighborhoods. And I'm talking about like with like, yeah, several thousands, all in one neighborhood. And when I say neighborhood, people like have different associations between the US and Germany with that. Our neighborhoods are exclusively homes, or maybe apartment buildings. Yeah, of course, with like integrated, but like not so many of these exclusive home neighborhoods have bakeries or grocery stores integrated in the neighborhood. You have to like drive out of the standard neighborhood to get to where you need to be, and that's a big difference. Is that in Munich we have more compact neighborhoods that are very walkable with proximity to grocery stores or pharmacies or bakeries, and that is very, very cool. My family lives in San Antonio, like I said, and they live in this massive neighborhood where literally to drive out of the neighborhood, y'all, it takes like, I don't know, 4 minutes, 5 minutes just to get out to the main road. So that's crazy. And honestly, I think like if the city planners had like put in a little bodega, like a little grocery store in the neighborhood, like it would pop off, y'all. People would take advantage. So I don't understand why there isn't multi-purpose buildings or just like other buildings other than homes. I think that Texas could definitely learn from Germany on that end. In general, multi-purpose buildings are not as common in Texas, but I'll get into that later. Driving is essential, of course, in Texas, and public transport is more accessible in cities in Germany, which is something I am forever grateful for, that I really love about Germany. Next up, I want to talk about home ownership for a little bit. And we're not going to get into like crazy specific numbers, but just in general, in Texas, like many people in cities own their homes, which I think is very cool. It's still somewhat attainable for people to own their homes in urban areas. We have larger plots of land. It's just very different. So, like for like a dual income household, um, people, yeah, with people who are both working full time, like I'm thinking of like my friends, like I think they probably could afford a home one day in general, which I think is, yeah, amazing. Whereas living in Munich, Germany, or like Berlin or Hamburg, y'all, it is just another world here versus Texas with land. Home ownership is extremely rare in cities due to sky high prices and low availability in general. There aren't as many, yeah, properties on the market in general. And like when I'm comparing like Munich and San Antonio or Munich and Austin, and just like the cities have sprawled so much in Texas that like San Antonio is also just so huge. Like you can like go on the west side or south and far, far north and still be in San Antonio and find a home for an affordable price. Like you can get a home for 500,000, 500,000 US dollars in Texas. That's like a great home. Um, and like that is just like impossible in Munich, Germany. There are apartments that can even cost like €1 million here in Munich that are just this tiny little flat that could be like a one bedroom. And I think that's just like, that's wild. I have personally like, yeah, I don't know, over the years of working here in Munich, like I've had bosses who have told me that they rent and that they've been renting in Munich for the last 30, 40 years with their family. I know that's also common in other cities in the US. My aunt also in Boston like rented for most of her life. Um, yeah, so just very different. But in Texas, we have the space. And therefore, the Texas dream is to like own a home. And I think that's very cool. Building types. So let's talk about the differences. One huge thing that came to mind when I thought about like the types of buildings in general is that in Texas, we have a lot of apartments that are centrally owned, like apartment complexes that are owned by one company with amenities that have like a pool, a gym, barbecue spaces, like picnic areas, which I think is really, really cool. That does not really exist like in it's not very prevalent here in Munich. I mean, it's starting to come, like having these like little amenities, but like I mean, the prices are crazy and it's not standard in the culture here to have all these apartment, yeah, freebies when you rent. That's something I miss. I think the apartments can be so so cool in Texas, and people do love to choose your apartment also like based on like what they have to offer. Imagine like just like being able to like go to the pool whenever you want or like hit up your gym that's literally in your building. I think that's really really cool. Um, but because of that, like y'all, housing in Texas has gotten so commercialized. Companies like want to swoop up properties to just like, yeah, commercialize them. Like people even call my dad, who's a homeowner in San Antonio, trying to buy him out, even though he doesn't want to sell his home. And it's just crazy. So like less and less people, I guess, are also owning homes and like before what it used to be like for my parents generation and their parents generation because of like the commercialization and like the power that these nasty large corporations have to take over and take advantage of renters, which is super unfortunate in that sense. So there is a dark side to that as well, of course. Apartments in Munich, I know, are individually owned within shared buildings. So that's very different. So like you can have your apartment complex that has, I don't know, 50 different apartments in it. And like it might look modern and new, like, and it could have been built within the last 10 years. Um, like very similar to what an apartment in Texas could look like in Austin, for example. But every single apartment unit within that complex is individually owned, like has an actual human landlord. And that is something that's like not really much of a thing in Texas, not that I know of. In general, with building types, I mean, buildings go up so quickly in Texas, and oftentimes it's true. Like they're built poorly, not with much thought, other than like wanting to make a profit and take advantage of people. Yeah, these companies are out for profit, and therefore quality is definitely like looked over. Germans always say like, "Oh yeah, like the paper homes in the US and blah blah blah." But like it's kind of true, y'all. Like German homes are rock solid. They are super super solid quality homes, and I'll give them that. Like man, like the Germans know how to build a good home. You know what? I'm saying the Germans know how to build a good home, but like quite honestly, they probably have a lot of laborers from Eastern European countries. So shout out to them and their hard incredible work in building this country up. Multi-purpose buildings. So yeah, going back on that topic, they are starting to become more and more popular in Texas. My mom used to live in a neighborhood in Austin, Texas called Mueller, um, and a German name. And she lived in a building where they had like a dentist on the ground floor and like I don't know other kind of little businesses, which I think is a start. And it was kind of walkable in her neighborhood, which is really really cool. It's not common. That's just kind of starting in like the new kind of trend, which like I am here for. Yes, like let's make cities walkable in Texas. I think that is very very cool. But there were also safety concerns there. I'm just thinking about like the first time that I brought my boyfriend. We stayed at my mom's apartment there in Austin, and like it was his first time in the US, but he's from South Africa, so like in like Stellenbosch near Cape Town. So like he also is like um he knows like about people's like cars getting broken into and things like that. Like he yeah, Germans like maybe can't relate as much. But anyway, we were there in Austin. We were like leaving to go have fun around like the city for the day, and we look and like right next to my mom's car, like her neighbor's SUV was on cinder blocks. Y'all, they had taken all four tires from the SUV. And this is like in a fancy, like really nice apartment that has a gate and like is super expensive, blah blah blah. That still happens, so that's unfortunate. Um, which leads me to the next subject, which is safety and security. In Texas now, it's getting more and more common for people to have cameras and doorbell subscriptions. Um, People who have homes, like home renters, and apartment dwellers alike, people have these cameras because sometimes they get their packages stolen, or in general, just like to have, yeah, have the place secured a bit more. Um, that's not common here in Munich, Germany. I do not see people at the rate like in Texas, of course, having these cameras. I guess it's not that much of an issue. So I would say it's like generally safer in comparison. And crazy enough, like some flats here don't even have deadlocks on their apartment doors. I used to live alone. Um, and before I moved in with my boyfriend Tim here, and when I lived alone here in Munich, my little apartment door did not have a deadlock. Granted, like there was a lock, I guess, to get into the apartment building itself, but like it was this little cheap, like super, super airy door that what the door itself wasn't even solid, y'all. And then there was no deadlock. And like coming from Texas and like being a woman who was living alone, I was just like, this is kind of weird. This is not that nice. Nevertheless, I mean, like nothing happened, but like you never know, right? Deadlocks are very, very common in Texas. I know, like, I have a deadlock now where I reside, and like my friends oftentimes have deadlocks, but there are places who that like in Munich, like that don't, and people don't bat an eye. Um, yeah, just a little bit of a difference. And then one thing I will say, also a big difference between homes in the US and in Germany is like the names on the like on your address and like like when you're getting stuff shipped and like on like to ring the bell. That's what I'm trying to say. So, the biggest difference is that like in Texas, if you live in an apartment, you have an apartment number. So say your address is like 123 Bell Street. It would be 123 Bell Street for the entire apartment building, and then it would be apartment number 275. So that's how the person would know, like the person delivering the package would know, because you are identified by your apartment number. Y'all, in Germany, they don't have apartment numbers. And like that's something I will never understand. 9 years here and like I still won't get it. Germans are so specific on Datenschutz, which is like data privacy and protection. And typically like so very careful about that. And yet here in Germany, what's common practice is to have your name, either your full name or your last name, displayed outside of your home or apartment. And I just think that's crazy. I hate that. I really do not like that system. I think it's frankly dumb. And y'all can fight me on this, but like, come on. I think a system where you're identified by a number just makes total sense. Also, like, my family's home in San Antonio, they don't have their full names on their mailbox. They just have their normal address. But here in apartments, y'all, to be identified by your full name, just weird. When I lived alone, like, and I took an Uber once, I was also kind of uncomfortable because no, like y'all, that was a weird Uber ride. That was years ago. Should I get into it? Side note, the Uber driver was like, "Oh, like, are you a party girl? Like, I can get you Coke. Like, do you want to party with me?" And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like, please, like, drop me home." Like, I was just like panicking internally. But of course, as a woman, you know that you cannot show that fear. And I was like, "Oh, like, no, I'm good. Thanks. Like, I'm good." And I laughed it off, even though I was freaking out inside. And he drops me off at my home, and like all I could think of is that he didn't even ask me. He had asked like, "Oh, like, do you live alone?" And it was nighttime, and it was like past midnight, coming home from hanging out with friends, and I was like, "No, I have like flatmates." And he drops me off. Like, in the end, it was fine, but all I was thinking about is like, this man now knows my name, like my full name, because of the Uber ride, and my full name is plastered outside of my apartment. Weird. Very weird. So, I mean, in the end, it was fine. But like, y'all, I think the Germans should just like get it together and protect your data, like data privacy, y'all. Let's get with it and have apartment numbers. Petition for that. Lastly, I want to talk all about culture and etiquette in general within homes and like the differences between the US and Germany. Starting off with in Texas in particular, like it's so common to go inside your home with shoes on. I know obviously this depends on culture and like some families like it's a for sure like no go, but I'm making generalizations, and many homes where I'm from, like you just walk in with your shoes and it's totally fine. Um and then like yeah, in Germany that's just like absolutely not. You could not walk into a German's home with like your full nasty ass shoes on. I gotta leave them at the door. A good German family, they have house shoes for you to put on, which is so cute too. I think that's really nice. One thing I want to say, sorry, like on another side note, is that in Texas, y'all, in 2025, we are still making apartments and homes with carpet. I'm disgusted. I just think it's really gross to have full on carpet. I've asked my dad like why, like cuz he's done contract work, and I'm just like why would y'all do that? And he's like, it's just a cost thing. It's like cheaper than having, I guess, a wooden floor, but like y'all can get laminate, even like a fake wood, please. Like oh, I honestly like get grossed out at the thought of carpet homes and us going in with our outdoor shoes on. It cannot be hygienic. It can't be. Germans can't relate. They don't have carpet, like full carpet in their homes. They do have rugs, of course. I have rugs in my apartment to make it cozy, and that's great. But y'all, like, why do we have carpet in our home? So I guess that's kind of related to like the shoe culture that freaks me out now in Texas. Growing up, y'all, it was just so normal. I never thought any of this was weird. This was just my reality, and now like Germany has changed me. Rugs are much better versus having like built-in carpet and having your pets who like eventually end up peeing or pooping on them, and like you going in with your mud on your shoes. Like it can't be good. Clothing rules, like in Texas, I guess, because like we don't have public transport at the near, not even close to the extent of what Munich has. Therefore, like we're in our own cars. So like when we go out and come back, I think people jump into their beds also with their outdoor clothes. What's super common in the German culture is like to change. Like you would never want to get into your bed here after like being outside on the U-Bahn, on the bus and tram. That's like your outdoor clothes. Like why would you want to like get into your clean bed with like all that bacteria? So like you change into your little indoor outfit, which I find very cute. And I'm totally a fan of. I will not get into my bed with like my jeans that have touched the U-Bahn. Like couldn't be me anymore. And I really like that little German culture bit. Just like a few more quick bonus things. In Texas, in the US, waving flags, like or having flags waving outside of your home is very common. Super, super common. Munich, yeah, in Germany, rare to see. Not common at all, unless it is like the World Cup. That's like when the German flags come out. It's a different kind of pride, but like you will not see German flags just like waving outside of people's homes. That's from their history as well. Switzerland though is very prideful. What else? Stray dogs. We have stray dogs in Texas. I mean, not in every neighborhood. It obviously depends. In my family's neighborhood in San Antonio, they have stray dogs. Stray dogs are not a thing in Munich. I can't speak for other cities, but like I've never seen a stray dog in other German cities as well. Like they got that under control. Stray cats as well. And yeah, just a bit about barbecue culture. Like we have space in Texas, therefore like barbecues are very common. Having people in your backyard. To have a backyard in Munich is a crazy luxury. I don't even know if I know anyone, like out of all of my friends in this city, like I don't know if anyone has a backyard. I don't think so. If you have a patio, like a balcony in Munich, like oof, like we're gonna go party on your balcony. I'm just gonna invite myself over. No, but like a balcony is also very valued here in Munich, which is very cool. So while like Texas has like the barbecue culture of like hanging out in backyards, we go to beer gardens here and gather there in those public spaces. And I think that's also very, very cool. Yeah, so that is going to be it for these top 10 differences between the apartment and home life between the US and Germany. All of this was just honestly like my personal experience, y'all. Don't come at me, or maybe do, and leave a comment and let me know if like there's something that you really disagree with. Thanks a lot for listening to this episode. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Yeah, leave a comment, share, and yeah, until next week. Thanks a lot. The Pod Abroad's video, audio, and music is produced and edited by Tim Teherne. Make sure to give us a follow and leave a comment if you like this episode.